Hey everyone, this is Korey Bauer, Chief Investment Officer at Foothill Capital Management. Today, we're going to be discussing the United States cannabis market and why we think this is going to be the biggest opportunity for investors to capture this exciting growth we are seeing in the space today. The total size of the United States cannabis market in 2019 was $12.4 billion relative to the Canadian market, which was only $1.8 billion. The global legal marijuana market size is expected to reach $46.8 billion by 2025, according to a new report published by ArcView Market Research. It is anticipated to expand at a compound annual growth rate of 21% during the forecast period. Increasing legalization of cannabis for medical as well as adult use is expected to promote significant growth over the next decade. If we just break out the United States, the USA will be nearly 72% of all cannabis sales globally. If we combine Canada with the United States, the North American cannabis story jumps to 86% of all sales. This is plain and simple. This is definitely a North American opportunity with isolated opportunities outside the United States. We think there's just too much hype around the European cannabis market, which will only be 8% of the global market. A recent poll conducted by Quinnipiac University found that 93% of American voters are in favor of legalization of cannabis for medicinal purposes. The massive shift in U.S. public opinion on the legalization of cannabis across the country is now at 67%, up from roughly 30% 20 years ago. There are currently 33 states as well as the District of Columbia that have pushed through medical cannabis programs in their respective states. The upcoming 2020 election will be critical for the future growth of the U.S. cannabis sector. States like Arizona, Montana, and New Jersey are all voting on recreational measures, while Mississippi and South Dakota are voting on medical programs. The revenue for these states could be an estimated $9.3 billion over time. If these measures pass according to BDS Analytics, 71% of the United States would have access to medical cannabis, while 34% of Americans would have access to an adult use cannabis market. We think that legalization of cannabis on a national level would be extremely beneficial to not only consumers but the federal and state governments. The pandemic has caused massive ripple effects in the U.S. economy, with permanent job losses on the rise and unemployment that may take years to go to pre-pandemic levels. In this scenario, U.S. federal legalization could be worth $128.8 billion in taxes, and 1.6 million new jobs could be in the space, according to New Frontier data. These are very big numbers that could help propel the economy during this time of need. The 2020 election could be a major game changer for the cannabis sector that can accelerate the strong growth that we are currently seeing in the sector today. If we get a Biden presidency, the Biden-Sanders task force could potentially mitigate federal risk or potentially a full rescheduling of cannabis from a Schedule I classification. In the recent vice president debate, Senator Kamala Harris said that they would decriminalize marijuana and expunge criminal records. This sparked a sizable rally in the global cannabis market on hopes of legalization progress in the largest cannabis market in the world. We recently attended the Cannacorgenuity Virtual Cannabis Symposium and had an opportunity to hear from 60 presenting companies, both public and private, on the strong growth that they are seeing in the United States cannabis market. What many of these companies are seeing is an uptick in spending, with some companies' basket sizes increasing from nearly $100 to over $150 to $200 per visit. As more form factors roll out and states move forward with full recreational plans, we think consumers will have a variety of ways to consume cannabis, which may lead to many new first-time users in the cannabis market. Many of the companies that we met with are very excited about the results coming out of Florida and Pennsylvania, as patient growth in these states are very robust. If we take a look at the Canadian licensed producers, or LPs, they continue to struggle with profitability relative to companies in the United States. Despite the COVID-19 outbreak, sales in the United States and Canada are booming, as cannabis is now deemed an essential business and consumers are looking for alternatives to potentially treat specific ailments. We are also seeing a major push for states like New Jersey to fully legalize cannabis in the upcoming election, and what we think is one of the most important things to watch for the cannabis sector for the remainder of 2020. If we look at a Monmouth University cannabis poll, back in 2014, only 48% of New Jersey residents were in favor of legalizing cannabis, while that number now has grown to 64% in a 2020 poll. If we get passage of adult use cannabis in New Jersey, historically when looking at like a state like California, it took roughly 14 months for the first sales of cannabis to actually hit. But we think Governor Phil Murphy will expedite the process, and the first sales of this adult use should be sometime in late 2021 or early 22. We think this will push surrounding states like New York, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania to accelerate legalization efforts. The continued build out for US MSOs or multi-state operators has been an important piece of the puzzle, as more supply can meet the overwhelming demand we are seeing across the country. Thanks again for listening to our video update. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send us an email. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Stay safe and stay healthy. Thanks, everyone.